end. So the first half-ish, we're going to work on core. We're working on core strength in different positions, different poses, different movements to challenge the core. And for those of you who haven't practiced with me, you'll know that I offer different variations, typically starting out with the gentlest, easiest variation. And sometimes that's the most appropriate one for you, not necessarily because you're weak or you can't do the harder variation, but because it helps you to focus on the areas that you need to contract or hold or release or whatever it is that I'm asking you to do. So keeping that in mind. And then the second half, we're going to do a little bit more restorative, gentle stretching, opening of the body in areas that tend to be tight with repetitive movements of rowing. So as far as the props go today, I would advise a couple of yoga blocks if you have them. If not, no worries. If you don't have the yoga blocks, make sure you've got a blanket or a towel or a foam roller. I would have the blanket or the towel regardless. I am going to do a little bit of core, and I'm going to add an option to have some weight. So I'm going to use a medicine ball, but this could be a small dumbbell weight or something that has a little bit of weight to it, so it doesn't have to actually be exercise equipment. And this is 8 pounds, but I would say certainly nothing more than 10. And if you've never done it before, if you have shoulder issues, you're going to want something more like 5 pounds. So the first part, working on strength, because we're focusing on the core, remember that you might need to rest more often than what I'm offering. So please feel free to rest at any time during the practice. And even though the second part is more gentle, gentle doesn't always mean that it works for your body. So feel free to adapt, to modify, to substitute as we go through any part of the practice today. So we are starting on our backs. And we'll start in some stillness as we always do. And the purpose of this is really to allow you to center yourself, to become present in the space, in this time that you've set aside for yourself, your body here on the yoga mat. So whatever position you'd like to be here in here on your back, maybe hands connecting to the torso, a hand on the belly, the other on the chest, elbows, shoulders resting on the floor. We'll be in some stillness for a couple of minutes. If it's comfortable, you can close your eyes. You don't need to see me for this part. Bringing your focus to your breath. Let's focus on the sensations of your breathing. It could be the feel of the belly and chest expanding and contracting as you breathe. Could be the feel of the air entering and exiting your body. So breathing through the nose, feeling that cool air entering your nostrils as you breathe in. That warmer air exiting your nostrils as you breathe out. And then start to slow your breathing down, lengthening out both inhale and exhale. Not making a big deep breaths, just slowing it down, lengthening it out. And with that lengthened breath, perhaps you hear the breath as it passes over the back of your throat. So 3 different sensations with the breath here that you could focus on. I would pick one, whether it's the feel of the belly and chest moving, the sensation of the air in the nose, or the sound of the breath. We want to stay with this breath throughout the practice, and especially as we begin to go into some of the core, We want to coordinate breath and movement, and we want to slow the movement down. Slower movements with core work is actually where it's at, where you're actually going to build a little bit more strength and stamina. Take the next few breaths to set an intention for your practice. So perhaps your intention is staying with this breath, staying with the breath so you can stay focused, being present, your brain and your body being in the same space and experiencing the same things. Or maybe you're dedicating your practice to another person who might need your positive thoughts and energy. Whatever it is, bring this thought to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. So releasing the hands down by the sides, we'll begin to move here, this small, subtle movement of a pelvic tilt. Bend the knees, feet flat. We're flattening the lower back into the floor, tipping the tailbone up without lifting the hips, and then releasing that. Exhaling to flatten the lower back into the floor. That pelvis is rocking backward, tailbone tipping up. Inhale, release it. We'll do a few more. Pretty subtle here, small movement. Try to keep the legs and buttocks relaxed. You're using all abdominal muscles here. And the muscle that's affecting this movement is your rectus abdominis. That's the central vertical abdominal muscles, your six pack here. An important muscle in the end of the drive phase into the finish, and even that turn from the finish to going back towards the catch. These muscles pretty important here for stabilizing the spine and affecting that leaning back and then that leaning forward or tipping forward here from the hips at the into and out of the finish. And then relaxing here on the next inhale. So you could keep it right there. Sometimes that subtle movement can feel really good to the lower back, or if you're struggling, feeling like you want to concentrate on that a little bit more, feel free. Or we'll turn that motion into initiating rising up into a bridge. So I'm arms down by the sides. I tip the tailbone up as I did before, but now this time pressing into the feet to lift the lower back, the middle back, the upper back, and then reverse that on the way back down in the reverse order. We lower the upper back, lower the middle back, press the lower back into the floor, and then release the tailbone at the bottom. So let's make it a fluid movement. Inhale, lift the tailbone, roll up the spine to the top of the bridge, and then exhale, roll back down the spine as if you could lower one vertebra at a time. We'll do a few more like this, and you might be able to raise and lower one vertebra at a time. I don't know how you would tell, unless you had some kind of imaging fluoroscopy or something. But often laying that low back down is a little bit harder. So I'm going to keep going with this and add arm movement. So lifting that spine, I'll reach the arms up towards the ceiling and then overhead. And then exhale, roll the spine and bring the arms back down to the floor. Let's do that a couple more times. So you'll feel hips and back and abs working here, maybe even the quads and the hamstrings. This time, if you can, with your shoulders, leave your arms overhead, but lower the spine and the hips back down as you've done before. Once the hips come back down, stretch the legs out. Stretch the legs and arms out to the corners of the room. So you're forming this big letter X with the body. We're going to stretch out through all four limbs. And what I would say, especially you have a tendency to cramp in the back, is to be gentle. So instead of 100% effort, think 50% effort on your stretch. On the inhale, reach out through your heels, out through the hands. And then exhale, relax. Stay in that shape though. Let's do that a few times. Inhale, stretch out, make all your limbs longer, and then exhale, release. One more. And on your exhale, this time we're going to pull the knees in, holding the shins or the backs of the thighs, and gentle rock or circling of the hips here. And as you'll notice, I usually do some kind of relax or releasing of tension movement in between or before I move on to the next core or strengthening exercise. And that's so it's to remind your body that it can be strong, but it doesn't need to hold tension. So I'm lowering the feet back down. We're going to do a variation of dead bug. Now this one, I'm going to use the yoga block. If you don't have it, you could pretend. I'm going to give you an option to add a weight for this one. But I will say that if you have any shoulder issues or rotator cuff issues, I would do without a weight for this and move in whatever comfortable range of motion you have for your shoulders. So I'm bringing both feet up, knees and hips bent, shins start parallel to the floor. To engage the muscles I want to work here, I'm pressing my back ribs and the back of my pelvis into the floor. And you're not really moving, but you'll feel this, your waist muscles engage, the transverse abdominis, inner layer of abdominal muscles engaging. Reach your arms overhead. Here you have the block in your hands. And I'm going to do just the arms here first, and then I'll add the legs. So you're inhaling, reaching the arms up overhead. Don't let the back ribs pop away from the floor here. And then exhale, bring the block up over the chest again. So we inhale, lowering the arms overhead. Exhale, bring it back up. So you can keep it here or even lower your feet and just do arms. Or with the leg, you would lower one foot, tapping it down as you lower the block. Exhale, bring them both back up to the starting position. And so you alternate legs here. Now, if your lats are tight and you lower those arms overhead like this, your ribs want to pop away from the floor. The front ribs flare towards the ceiling. So you've got to work harder with your core to keep those back ribs down. All right, let's pause for a moment. You can lower the hands and the feet, just gently rocking the knees side to side. So I'm going to do another set of these, and I'm going to add the weight. Totally optional. You definitely don't want to do anything very heavy, especially if you've never done this movement or this exercise before. I would say if you've never done it before, you're not sure about it, 5 pounds or less. If you feel like you could do, I maybe max 10 pounds. This medicine ball is 8 pounds here. So I'm going to come back into that starting position, knees over hips. I have the hands up over my chest, pressing the back ribs, back of the hips into the floor. Inhale, the arms overhead, maybe with that leg tapping down, and exhale, come back up. So alternating legs here, keeping the back ribs, back of the pelvis pressed into the floor. More challenge would be to stretch that leg out, straighten the leg out. Maybe it comes close to parallel to the floor. I'll do a few more here. If you've lost that connection of the back ribs to the floor, maybe pause, take a break, reset, or just think, you know what, that's enough. I worked it to fatigue and I'm going to let it rest. One more each side. All right, both feet down, and whatever you have in your hands down here. And again, a couple of windshield wiper movements. We're coming up to a seated position. I'm sorry, we're not doing that yet. Sorry, go back. One more. We have one more here from our back. This one's the half bridge. And by half, I mean we're only going to lift halfway up. So my heels are lined up with the sitting bones. I'm lifting my hips in the lower back only. So as opposed to lifting that middle and upper back, I'm going to stay low. But the challenge for this one will be to keep your hips level. So you might even place your hands on the front of the hips. They're sort of monitoring what's happening there. Inhale, lift one heel. and exhale, lower it down. Inhale, lift the other heel. Exhale, lower it down. So I'm alternating, partially unweighting one leg here. And the challenge is that when you unweight one side, the pelvis wants to tip side to side. And you've got to use your core, those innermost abdominal muscles, and the glutes of the down leg to keep the hips level. If you want more challenge, lift that whole foot. You don't have to do a big old can kick here. Just lift the foot a few inches off the floor. Stay focused on the hips, staying level. And you might notice that one side works better than the other. And that could have to do with how much glute maximus activation you have. Sometimes one side of your transverse abdominis is stronger, more stable, more coordinated than the other for whatever reason. All right, we'll lower both feet down here. We'll pull the knees in and bring the knees out wide. So you could hold the backs of the legs here, this relaxed, happy baby, rocking gently side to side. If you'd like a little bit of inner thigh stretch as you shift over, roll to the right, stretch that right leg out, gentle roll to the left, stretch that left leg out. And it doesn't have to be a big roll. It could be just a subtle little shift side to side. Now we're going to come up to sitting. You can either roll to your side and sit up or hold the backs of the thighs and rock forward and backward a few times. If you have neck, shoulder, back issues, maybe you don't do this rolling here. All right, eventually coming up to a seated position. So knees bent and feet are flat here to start. Coming into boat pose. So we're holding the backs of the thighs, sitting up tall. So not allowing that back to round, not coming into that C shape of the spine in any part of this here. So I'm kind of lifting up through the breastbone. I'm going to start to shift my weight back. So now my weight is sort of in between my sitting bones and my tailbone here. And you could pause, this could be enough, or lifting the feet up, shins parallel to the ground, keep the shoulders relaxed. This could be it, or you could even kind of alternate one foot down and up. Maybe you let go, arms out, palms up. Stay relaxed through the shoulders, unclench the jaw. And then we'll lower the feet down. You could come into a sort of cross-legged position here, or maybe even legs out and straddle. Hands by your hips, sitting tall. This may feel good just to be here. If you have no osteoporosis in your spine or herniated disc, you could fold forward a little bit. I'm pretty tight in my hips. This is as far as I go, but some of you may fold quite a bit further, face close to the floor. Take a couple of breaths. And we'll rise back up. And then we're coming on to hands and knees. And I'm going to use the blanket to pad my knees because we will be on our knees for the next several poses. Sometimes after a while that pressure can get to you, so just keeping that in mind. We're starting in this tabletop position. So we have the knees under the hips, the wrists are under the shoulders, but remember you have some options with the hands. It could be loose fist, or you could be down on your forearms here. I would recommend having blocks under the forearms here if you're coming completely off the hands. Just a little easier as we're about to do some of the next few core things if the shoulders are closer to level with your hips. Okay, so variation of bird dog. If you haven't used those blocks under your forearms here, we're going to place one block on that sacrum, or just pretend you have one there because we're going to use a little imagination anyway. This block is a teacup. It's fine china teacup filled with hot tea. Try not to let it spill. We're firming the belly. Make a solid wall of your abs here. and lengthen the spine, tailbone and top of the head reaching away from each other. We're reaching one leg back, the toes point straight down. Could be just legs here, or reach the opposite arm forward. And then we lower that knee and the hand. So it's the transition of lowering and lifting. You have to be really careful of that teacup spilling. Inhale, reach the other leg back, opposite arm forward. Exhale, lower. Remember, you could do just legs. It's a little bit less challenging. Keep going here. We're inhaling to lift into the bird dog, exhaling back to that tabletop. And if you're focusing on not spilling the tea here, or crashing that teacup down, you will be using hip and core muscles here a little bit more intently, meaning as more mindfully you have to engage to keep those hips really balanced. We'll do one more here. And lower the hand, the knee. You could take that block off of here. And just sitting back into a child's or puppy pose. Child's pose, hips over heels, forehead down. Puppy as an alternative, hips over knees, forehead down. And that puppy pose, you could choose any time, but certainly if you have osteoporosis or herniated disc, to keep the compression out of the spine and out of the disc so you don't injure yourself here. Take a few breaths. Maybe hands are stacked under forehead here. Coming back into that lengthened breath. You could stay resting for longer. We've already done quite a bit of core, so maybe you stay here resting a little bit longer. I'm going to coming back to the hands and knees, bringing the knees out a little wider than the hips. And for this one again, we could actually put that teacup back on. The knees wider is going to be helpful keeping those hips level, but we're twisting from the upper body, and I want you to try to keep your hips square to the floor so they don't twist. So leave one arm down and pull the other elbow towards the ceiling. I'm looking towards that side, but my hips stay level. Lowering that hand back down, and then alternating sides. Inhale, pull that other elbow up, looking towards that side. Exhale, lower it back down. Alternating sides here, keeping the hips squared up to the floor so you're not twisting and opening through that whole torso, just from like belly button and above. One more. All right, lower that hand down. So that was the easier version, and it might be, again, for you to concentrate. Keeping it easier might be where it's at for you. That might be the best one. If you'd like a little more challenge, we're going to do this from a kneeling plank. I'm keeping my knees wide, but I'm going to walk it out so there's a straight line from the knees to the top of my head, and you could certainly still do this from forearms here. So trying to keep the hips from rocking side to side. We'll inhale, pull one elbow up, look towards that side. Exhale, lower the hand down. Inhale, pull the other elbow up. Exhale, lower it down. Alternating sides. Rest if you need it. Make sure you are breathing. One more each side. And you could probably guess where the next level would be. So options are to go back to the first one, hands and knees, stay here, knee down plank or knee up plank. Or of course, the other option is to rest. So I'm going to do that knee up plank. I have my feet about mat distance apart. Inhale, pull the elbow up, look towards that side. Exhale, lower. Other side, I'm trying to keep my hips square to the front so they are not twisting. Minimizing the tipping of my hips side to side. Transverse abdominis, innermost abdominal muscle, really important here. And it's really important for keeping that spine healthy. All right, lower the knees. Whew, take that block off. That one got me. And you could find a child's or puppy pose again, or maybe sit back on your heels and shake out the wrists or roll the shoulders. So for me, I started losing my breath there, but I had to talk all the way through it. So I'm going to take a moment here, start to slow my breathing down, lengthening it out, coming back to that intentionally slowed down, lengthened out breath we started with. Perhaps even coming back to my intention here in this rest. So resting for longer if you'd like, coming back to hands and knees, or I'm ready to be on my forearm, so I'm going to come down to there for now. 1 foot back. Here's our toe rocking movement. Toes tucked under, shift forward, bending through the toes, shift back, press through the heel. Breath is inhale, shift forward, exhale, shift back. Take a few more breaths and cycles of movement. And switching sides. All right, lowering both knees here. So I'm going to set myself up for down dog. Down dog can be challenging after all the core work we've done. Puppy pose is sort of a kneeling down dog, so you could be there, you could be in child's pose, you could substitute, do something else altogether. For that down dog, hands a little forward of shoulders, lift your hips up and back. Find that length in the spine, even if that means bending the knees a little bit. Take a moment here, maybe you pedal the feet or rise up on the toes, release the heels, shake the head, maybe lift a leg. A few more breaths here in the down dog. Settle into some stillness. And then from here, look forward. Walk your feet. Take as many steps as you need to get your feet to the front of the mat, coming into a forward fold. One option is this ragdoll fold, knees bent, upper body draped over, or this one protective of the spine, especially if you're working with osteoporosis, herniated disc. It's feet wide, butt back. Your forearms are on your thighs. So the spine is long either pose. Perhaps you do a little sway, a little weight shift, ragdoll. You could be holding elbows or shaking the head. We'll release the hands if you're holding. Bend the knees, look forward. Strong legs. We're going to rise up to stand and roll those shoulders back and down here at the top of the movement. I'm going to move that blanket out of the way as we come into some standing poses. These are yoga poses where I've added on extra core work, and it's optional. And we'll be using our obliques, which are the third set of abdominal muscles that we have not used yet in the practice. So starting here at the front of the mat, take a big step back with that left foot. Pivot the heel down so that your hips are squared, or really they're open to the left. They're not really squared all the way up to the left. Front knee bent here. We find that length in the spine. And you're either bringing the front hand to the thigh, to the thigh, or the forearm to the thigh. Back hand could be on the hip for now. We're using this arm against the leg as a leverage here, so you open that chest a little bit more to the side. So side angle could reach the top arm straight up, palm facing out. This could be your pose right here. You do not have to add the core, the oblique work, but if you are, imagine 100 helium balloons attached to this top hand There's so much healing, and then it starts to lift your arm off the front thigh. And then a bird flies by and pops 10 of them, and you slowly float back down. So we inhale, lift off, and then exhale, lower down. Let's do maybe 2 or 3 more. So we're actually using both sides of the waist for this, for the lift and for the lower. All right, your next inhale lifts your torso back up and you straighten the front leg here. Maybe a couple of backward shoulder rolls. So now we're coming into a triangle pose. You could keep the same stance. Sometimes having a shorter stance here feels a little bit better to the hips or feels more stable. So you could decide where you go with that. We find that length in the spine again, arms reaching out, forward and back. And then keep the length in the spine, but shift the torso of the front leg. This front hand could come down somewhere on the leg. Top arm is reaching up. Now you could use the bottom hand for support. You could use your core a little bit more. Bring the bottom hand, the back of the hand to the inner leg. So it's not really holding you. Maybe it's that leverage to open up. You could stay with this or the crocodile chomp. So my torso stays turned to the side. I'm going to bring both arms here towards that left side together. Inhale, open back up. So we exhale, arms together. Inhale, open. A couple more here. Ooh, I'm feeling it. This sort of second round of obliques working from the standing pose. Open back up. Strong legs rise up. Bend the front knee. Step it forward. Shake out those legs. Roll the shoulders. And of course, we're going to do this on the other side. So you could stay at the front. I'm going to turn so that my back doesn't end up to you on this one. Big step back with the right foot. Heel comes down. We're open here now. Hips towards that left side. Front knee bent. Hand or forearm on that left thigh. Top arm up. Pause. A leverage of the arm against the leg to open that chest a little bit more. You could stay here, right? You do not have to do the oblique work. Or if you are, 100 helium balloons attached to that right hand. You float up off that front leg, and then you lower back down slowly. Inhale, lifting off. Exhale, slowly lower. Let's do maybe 3 more. That'll make us even, side to side. Next, lift off. Brings your torso all the way back up. Straighten the front leg. Roll the shoulders. Maybe you wiggle that back foot in for a shorter stance in the triangle pose. See how it feels. Spine long, arms out. Shift the torso over the front leg. Front hand comes down to the leg. Top arm up. You could stay here, hand on the leg giving you support, or take that support away to work the obliques. You could stay here, or take all of the support away with that crocodile chomp. Arms come forward here towards the right. Inhale, open back up. Let's do 3 more. I think I did 5 on that side angle. And then when I got to this one, I was like, let's do 1 less here. Strong legs, rise up, bend that front knee and step it forward. Shake out the legs, roll those shoulders, walk it off a little bit. Come into the front of that mat here again. We're finding our way into a forward fold. It could be that ragdoll, it could be that wide foot sitting back. If you'd like to add a little shoulder chest stretch, you could reach behind you, interlace fingers, roll the shoulders back and down, and then find your forward fold. If your shoulders are like, nope, that's not working, let it go. Maybe you sway a little bit or shake that head out. Take another couple breaths here. Bend the knees enough and bring the hands down to the floor. Now I'm going to find my yoga blocks. I've got my feet out yoga mat distance or even slightly wider here. I'm stepping my right foot back to the back of the mat, and I'm going to lower my back knee. I'm going to pad here with the blanket just for my comfort. And I'm coming into this lizard lunge. So I have both hands on the inside of that front foot. And you can even wiggle that front foot out wider if that feels better to have that wider stance here. If you don't have the blocks, you could be down on your hands, or you could even be that forearm on that front thigh. Coming into this upright lizard here to start, allow the hips to sink down and forward, but not forcing that. Pressing the hands to reach the top of the head up towards the ceiling. So the neck feels really long here. And it might even feel good to do a little side bend or rotate that head side to side. So if you didn't notice, we're moving away from the core. So getting a little bit more stretching into the hips here and the hamstrings. And we get to do some more restorative poses here in a moment. I'm going to toe heel that left foot, this front foot, back onto the mat. So now my blocks are on either side of the foot. Shift the hips back, walk your blocks back. So you start to come into this runner stretch or hamstring stretch, or it's a half a split stretch if you want to really stretch the imagination here. Keep a slight bend in that knee. Press into the hands to take the round out of the back. The neck is long. Add a little movement here at the foot. Pull the foot towards you and then relax it. Pull the foot towards you and then relax. So hamstring stretch with a little sciatic nerve glide here. Bending that front knee, you can walk your blocks forward. Switching sides, so I'll bring that left knee back. I'm sweeping my right foot out wide. It could be slightly on your mat, toes rotated out a little bit, or even well off your mat. Hands and or the blocks to the inside of that front foot. Let the hips sink down and forward, and then rise out of it. So the top of the head reaches up. Maybe you do a little small little head turn left and right a few times. Bring the head back to center. Toe heel that right foot onto your mat again. Blocks or hands on either side of that front foot. This one, it helps to have a little bit of space between that front foot and the back knee. So you could slide that foot forward a little bit or slide the knee back a little. Shift the hips back. Walk your blocks back. Keep at least a slight bend in that front knee, maybe more if you're tight in the hamstrings. Pressing into the hands to take the round out of the back. And then that little foot movement, pull the foot towards you and relax it. So I'm inhaling as I pull the foot back, exhaling as I relax. But it doesn't really matter for this, the breath pattern, as long as you're not holding your breath. All right, so I'm going to move that back. So knees under my hips, coming into another child's or puppy pose. Letting the forehead come down to rest on the hands or the floor. Take a few breaths right here in the center. And then we're going to add a little side bend to this. I'm going to turn just so you can maybe see me from the front. So lift the head just a little. Walk the hands over to the left, and this could be from child's or puppy pose. And then lower that head down. And so often, so I want to stay stretching out through the right, but you could make a loose fist with that left hand to put under your forehead here. Sometimes that's kind of awkward, get the head back down, but I'd like it to rest. Take a few breaths. So this side bend, you might be getting into your lats a little bit, which we did work in that sort of dead bug variation where we had the block or the weight overhead. And you might be feeling this into the lower back a little bit too. Side low back muscle called your quadratus lumborum might be stretching here. I'm feeling on my right side, but I know I have tightness there. Lift the head, walk the hands over to the right. So you want to stretch out through that left arm. Right arm you could stretch through too, but it's not as important in this position. Maybe that loose fist is under the forehead, or even a good place to slide the block under that forehead here. And come back into that breath and notice here that breath changes the sensation of the stretch. So not only are we stretching through the lats and maybe that left low back, we're also stretching through some of the breathing muscles, the intercostals that run between your ribs, even the diaphragm attachment here on the side ribs and at the spine. One more breath. Walk those hands back to the middle. And we're coming up to sitting. You could be sitting back on your heels. You could be sitting in a cross-legged position here. You could have those two yoga blocks under your sitting bones. I'm going to just use my blanket here for a little elevation to sit cross-legged, straddle position. If you struggle to sit tall while sitting on the floor, even with props, then I would recommend coming to sit on a chair, front edge of the chair or the couch. We're going to do some stretching here through some of the front and side neck muscles. And because to stretch them, sometimes you have to kind of hyperextend through the spine, which is not ideal. We're going to use our hand to anchor some of the muscular attachments here on the chest. So take one hand and put it on your chest just below the collarbone. This hand is going to act like an anchor to the skin, the muscle, the fascia, that connective tissue here. So this hand presses in towards the ribs and pulls down. And already I feel this stretch right over the collarbone. So be gentle, especially with neck stretches. Tip the chin up and turn the head away. So I begin to feel this stretch in the front and side of my neck, like down to the collarbone, up to the jaw, maybe even behind the ear here. And you can play a subtle shift of the head position. Changes this quite a bit. So the head tilt over, the chin up or down more, or more rotation, changes that stretch. So maybe you play with it, moving that head around, but you're turning away, tipping away from the anchored hand. Breathe. We're getting through some of the musculature that gets tightened in forward head position. Release the hand, bring the head back to center. Take a couple of backward shoulder rolls. See if you can notice the difference between left and right here. I definitely do. So we've got to do the other side. So hand on the opposite side of the chest. Now I'm going under my shirt. Skin to skin contact is going to give me a better anchor so my hand's not sliding on the fabric. Press that hand in towards the ribs and pull down. And then you're going to tip the chin up and turn the head away. And again, you can play with that head position. As long as you're tilting, turning, lifting away from that side where the hand is, you're going to get an effective stretch. Breathe. Be gentle, right? Aggressive stretching never gets you what you want unless you want to be, you're trying to get tighter, which most people are not trying to do when they're stretching. There's a reflexive part of your body that tightens up against aggressive or painful stretching. And I believe it's perhaps even more concentrated in the muscles in the neck because there's so many important things in our neck, our spinal cord, our trachea, our esophagus, our carotids, our jugular veins. So I think that they can be very protective. So gentle stretching, more effective at the neck. Release the hand, bring the head back to center, take a couple of backward shoulder rolls from here. I'm getting ready to do a variation of pigeon pose, which is the back of the hip stretch. We often do that back of the hip stretch on the back in a figure four position, ankle over knee. So if that feels better to you, go to that one instead of this one. So I'm in that cross leg position, lean towards the right, bringing that left leg back behind me. So I think of this as like part of a pinwheel, like from the top, my legs sort of look like a pinwheel. My inner left knee, inner left ankle are resting on the floor. Then I'm going to turn to face that forward leg, square up to that knee, the inner knee is facing towards me, hands on either side of that knee, lengthen the spine, walk the hands forward. Maybe you feel some stretch here in that right buttocks, and that could be enough, or you lower down onto your forearms, that could be far enough, or you lay the head down on the forehead here, or forehead on the yoga block. For me, the traditional pigeon pose where this back leg is straight is too intense. So I'm going to stay here. But if you would like to have more sensation with the stretch, you could straighten the back leg as I'm doing here. Hips are square to the floor. I'm going to choose the gentler version because I know by experience when I aggressively stretch this muscle group, that I actually get like I injure myself and I'll have pain for like 3 days in my sacroiliac joint. So this is a variation that works for my body. Something else probably works for you, or some variation. You could stay here longer or rising up onto the hands. So I'm going to stay in this leg configuration for a quad stretch. Again, there are many variations of quad stretch which you could choose, but my left hand reaching back for that foot, left foot, heel towards the buttocks here, leaning on that right arm away from the leg I'm stretching. This could be enough for you, or lower down into that right forearm. A little bit more stretch, maybe slide that left thigh back. Take a few breaths here. You might need the strap for this position, but I do find this one's a little bit easier to get to the foot than some of the other variations of quad stretch. Partly because you're a little more upright, your torso is tilted towards that side, easier to get. Letting this go, rising up, bringing that left leg forward again. This time we lean to the left, right leg comes back, right inner knee and ankle on the floor. Then I'm going to square my body towards that front leg, hands on either side of that front knee, leaning onto it. Might be far enough, or lower down onto the forearms, or the forehead could come down. Same options of that traditional pigeon where you straighten the back leg and square the hips to the floor, or come onto your back, ankle over knee stretch. All getting the same area, slightly different angles, different certainly configurations of your body. Slow that breath down, lengthen it out. You could stay longer enjoying this outer hip buttock stretch, or rising up, coming into that quad stretch. So I'm going to lean on my left hand, reach back with my right hand for the right foot. Here's my quad stretch. This could be as far as you go. Make sure your heel's going towards your buttocks as opposed to up. Or more sensation, lie on that, or come down onto that left forearm. Maybe you slide that right thigh back for more sensation of stretch in the thigh. And as I explained at the neck, more is not always better. Sometimes more detracts from your goal, which for the quad stretch is to loosen and lengthen those quadriceps, create some more range of motion at the hip and the knee. But if you tighten the muscles up, then you're going to do the opposite and feel worse. Not to mention feeling like let the foot go. Coming back up to that sitting position here. Coming onto the back, grab a yoga block or a foam roller, um, or it could be a folded towel here or blanket. We're coming into supported bridge, so lifting the hips, slide the block or the prop underneath the sacrum here, so above the butt, below the low back. And we're coming into hip flexor stretch. So you'll pull one knee in, hold on to it, let the other leg go out straight here. The heel is resting down on the ground. And bent knee, if you're feeling a pinch in the front of that hip, pull the leg out to the side a little bit. Let gravity start to open and lengthen through hip flexors, maybe top of the quads here on that leg on the floor. Take a few breaths. If you're tight in some of those deeper hip flexors, you might even feel some stretch up into the abdomen, following the line of the psoas and the iliacus muscles here. One more breath. Switching sides. Maybe observe, does it feel different left and right? I do often find common for a lot of people's right hip flexors to be tighter than the left. And I don't know if that has to do with dominance or if that has to do with driving leg or something else. We'll bring both feet to the floor here, lifting your hips and taking that prop out from underneath. You'll pull your legs in towards you here, gentle rock. Decide if there's something that you'd like to do before coming into Shavasana. Because we did quite a few planks and hands and knees positioning, I'm going to offer a relaxation pose, a resting pose where we're opening the chest. And several different ways to do this. I'll demonstrate two. One, the gentler version is having a rolled up blanket or a towel and having that underneath your spine, letting the arms come out to the sides, letting those shoulder blades wrap around that roll. And this is enough for some of us with really tight shoulders and chest muscles here. Could be as far as you want to go. If you want to be a little bit more intense, you could use the foam roller. If you have a nice long one, great, because that can support the whole spine. If you have a shorter one like I have here, you're going to make sure that is under the upper spine and the head. And then I'm putting that yoga block back where I had it for that supported bridge. It's not directly supporting my whole spine, but then I'm not in a big old back bend here. So the arms could come out again, maybe elbows or arms straight out or a little bend to the elbows here, opening up a little bit. If this feels intense, go back to the smaller roll or have the arms closer to your sides. Be where you can rest as opposed to fight or resist or feel too intensely. And you could be in any other resting position. This is just an offering. Maybe you close your eyes or keep them open if that feels more natural. Take an inhale through the nose. Open the mouth, let out a sigh. And again, let the breath go. And allow the body to rest here for the next few minutes. So you could stay here resting longer if you'd like. If you're ready to move on, start to deepen the breath. Make some gentle movements in the fingers, the toes, turning the head. If it feels good and you feel stable, you could take a full body stretch, arms overhead, maybe legs out. Inhale, lengthen, or maybe that X shape we did at the beginning. Exhale, let it go. Bend the knees. We're going to roll to the side. Just be careful if you're on that roll. Pause here for a moment on your side, perhaps appreciating your body, your breath, your health, and your yoga practice. Being gentle, press up to a seated position. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice.